Hello, my name is Chloe Gallagher, and I'm a Girl Scout in Troop 82694, and I'm doing my Girl Scout Silver Award on domestic violence and abuse. Domestic violence is any abuse physically or mentally, but it's most often thought as physical due to media representation. It comes from a close one, and it can happen to anybody of any sexuality, gender, race, or religion. It could be emotional, physical, or financial, or sexual. And there's absolutely no excuse for abuse, and you should never feel guilty or embarrassed for needing help, as it is not your fault, and you should never blame yourself for the abuse. Physical abuse is the most commonly discussed type of abuse. It usually is represented as slapping, hitting, choking, hair pulling, smothering, throwing objects, and burning, although it also involves things like preventing you from necessities like food, sleep, and meds, threatening you with weapons, and isolating you physically. It also may involve forcing drug and alcohol abuse upon you. And if you experience any physical abuse at all, it's an immediate sign to leave. If they are capable of doing it once, they are capable of doing it again. It is never just a one-time thing. So it's an immediate sign to get help and leave. Emotional abuse may include manipulation in using gaslighting and other things to lower your self-esteem and mental health, including shifting blame onto you and making you feel like you'll never be able to get better than them. They also use isolation to make you self-isolate, but they also trick your brain into isolating you from seeing your friends and your family. They isolate you by acting jealous and making you feel bad whenever you go out or spend time with other people. They also often may humiliate you or criticize you constantly or attempt to control your appearance. They are very critical of you, and they do a lot of love bombing, which is giving you a ton of affection and then using that as, ammo for later. For example, when you get into an argument later, they try to convince you, oh, I gave you all these things and I was so nice to you, you can't leave me because I care about you so much, even though they're just using it as an excuse. And in some extreme cases of emotional abuse, they may even stalk you online or in person. Financial abuse is one of the less discussed forms of abuse, though it plays a major role in the isolation of domestic violence victims. Because if you don't have money, then it's very hard to get out of the relationship. So a lot of times, abusers will make sure that you don't have money to spend to leave the relationship. They often do this by not letting you have a job or forcing you to be the only source of income and only relying on you. They steal money from you sometimes. They spend your money irresponsibly or without permission, and in some cases, they won't let you have access to your own money. They won't let you get money from other people, and overall will just make sure that it's very difficult for you to leave the relationship. Sexual abuse involves any non-consensual sexual relationship with your abuser. They may force sexual acts upon you. Your partner may even become violent if you refuse those acts. As long as it's not consensual, it's abuse. And it's not always a physical forcing. Even if you said yes eventually after they coerced you many, many times and they forced a yes out of you, that is still sexual abuse. It also includes sexual harassment and unwanted inappropriate touch, and maybe they won't let you stop even after you're physically exhausted. They refuse to let you stop. That's still sexual abuse. And in some dangerous situations, it's better to give in than to resist if they have a weapon, but that's not giving it up. You should still leave the relationship and seek help. Don't just give up. Just don't get harmed in the moment. A common question people ask that have not experienced domestic violence is, why didn't they just leave? And there are a lot of psychological tricks. Sometimes the victim doesn't even think that they're being abused. They just think that their partner is troubled and they're the only one that can help them. And even if they do feel abused, many times they feel alone and feel like they need to handle it alone. Or they do not think that it's a big deal due to their abuser telling them so. Also, isolation, because the abuser spends so much time isolating them physically and mentally, it's very difficult to leave the relationship. Some other reasons are that many don't have the financial capability to leave due to financial abuse, or they're worried of being stalked and harmed, because unfortunately most homicides of domestic violence victims happen after they leave the relationship if they don't get to somewhere safe. and they may not have somewhere else to stay that's safe, or they're worried that their family or pets or children will be harmed. There are many physical and mental effects of domestic violence, including an increased risk of suicide, anxiety, depression, PTSD, substance abuse, academic issues, eating disorders, mood disorders, and self-harm, and it often requires extensive and expensive therapy and support after getting out of the relationship. But there are also physical effects, including the injuries from the abuser, financial abuse issues, chronic pain, gastrointestinal issues, and cardiovascular issues. Thankfully, there are many warning signs to domestic violence, including any of the things we listed before, but also saying things that you will never do anything right, showing jealousy of friends, pressuring drug or alcohol use, intimidation with weapons, insulting parenting or threatening to take pets or kids, pushing the relationship faster than comfortable, unrealistic expectations of you, blaming others for things that they did, making others responsible for their feelings, hypersensitivity, cruelty to animals or kids, overly forceful during romantic or sexual activities, expects you to obey everything they say, admits to past abuse, mood swings, or overly controlling your social media. These signs will develop over time. They're not just going to be abusive as soon as you get into the relationship. They start off sweet, but then slowly become more and more abusive the longer you stay in the relationship. What should you do in a domestic violence relationship? You should reach out to family and friends and tell as many people as you can. And definitely contact law enforcement or contact a domestic violence shelter if you don't have anybody else to stay with. Those are great to make sure you're completely safe. Find a good time to sneak out to the shelter. Don't tell your abuser you're leaving, just leave. Try your best to avoid injury until you can get help. Talk to them about it. If they're only displaying a few signs of emotional abuse, you should talk to them about it. But if they do not change, then you should definitely leave the relationship, and it's an immediate sign to get out. The main thing is to contact police, contact shelters, contact the National Domestic Abuse Hotline, contact friends and family to make sure that you can be safe and protected from your abuser. If someone you know is struggling with domestic violence, then you should talk to them in private and make sure they feel comfortable and safe. You should offer them a place to stay so they know that if they ever need to get out of the relationship, they can go to you. You can let them borrow money when they need to leave. You can call hotline for them. If it's bad and they refuse to get help, call the hotline, call the police, call somebody. Educate them on abuse so they recognize that they're being abused, and also educate yourself and others so you guys can spot it. Help them get out of the relationship and find a safe place to stay. And once they're out of the relationship, make sure you're there for them mentally and making sure that they are feeling okay. Here are some resources you can use. Some nearby shelters include Alternative House, Living Waters, House of Help, Millie's Place, Casa Mirna, and Bridges. Most of the shelters will take money donations as well as non-monetary donations, meaning physical items like blankets and food and all of that. An organization in Westford would be Live for Live. They do a run every September to raise money for domestic violence, and they take donations all year long. There is also a clothing brand named Falsetto the Label that sells clothes to make money for domestic violence causes. So check them out too. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this, and I hope you learned some more about domestic violence and what to do in those situations. It's a very important topic that needs to be discussed more. Thank you.